Chapter 1. Gorstack did not stop walking for 4 days until he found a cave. He walked in slowly, letting his eyes adjust to the dark. He could smell the familiar musk mixed with ammonia odor of some animal that had marked its territory in here. He was far too tired to continue, so he walked right up to the bear and lay down next to it, using the larger body to keep him warm. If he kept still, the bear would not wake up. Gorstack did not mind at all sleeping on a rocky surface, but the bear kept trying to roll over on him. Throughout the night, it was an unconscious nudging match between the two. Eventually, after 5 hours, they both woke up and looked at each other. "Stay on your own damn side, and there won't be a problem. I've been walking for 4 days in the snow and ice in my jammies, so don't even think about kicking me out." The bear had a nasty snarl, or had a scary, oh my god. The bear had a scary snarl, but Gorstack had a scarier determination. The bear got up and stood on its back feet, easily towering over the dwarf. Gorstack took a few steps back and charged as hard as he could, spearing the belly with his own head. Now, we went through the oomph thing before. Just imagine it 4 times bigger, and that would be the sound effect that a bear would make when getting the wind knocked out of it. The bear regained its footing and charged Gorstack. Bam! Right in the breadbasket. Oh, dwarves are tough, yes, but being bear rushed is a whole new level of oomph. It was a long, drawn-out oomph, more like oomph. Gorstack opened his eyes and saw sunlight. He had been knocked out of the cave. He was about to get up, but the undetermined weight of the bear and its paw pinned him down. The bear moved up to Gorstack's face, hot breath a stinking and warm saliva a dripping. Before the bear could clamp down its mighty jaws on poor Gorstack's throat, Gorstack clamped his mighty jaws on the poor bear's throat. Really? The bear thought. Oh, hell no. The bear clamped down on Gorstack's throat. It was a stalemate. Bear's skin was too thick. Gorstack's beard was too thick. They both let go. The bear backed up and Gorstack got to his feet, assuming the classic brawler stance. Gorstack punched the bear right in the eye, causing the bear to roar, but it sounded more like a whimper. Not to be outdone, the bear lashed out and knocked Gorstack against the wall. The bear could have sworn the dwarf cursed as he hit the wall, instead of oomphing. Gorstack looked for his trusty sword, but realized that it was still in the cave. He noticed that the side of his head was bleeding from the bear claws. This was just unfair. There was one last resort. Gorstack quickly stripped off his pants and pulled out his steel codpiece. He put his fist in it and wrapped the leather. What the hell was that? I'm getting attacked by leaves. What? He put his fist in it and wrapped the leather around his wrist. Steel knuckles to the rescue! As long as he could dodge the bear's swipes, which were surprisingly quick for its size, he had a chance. He walked to the bear and stood his ground. He punched the same eye even harder this time. "Take that! Ha!" Gorstack yelled in triumph. The bear winced and stepped back, but took little time in deciding to lunge again. Gorstack was ready. A combat roll to the left, stand up, and punch the other eye. Back step from a swipe, come back in with a jab to one eye and a steel-plated hook to the other eye. Soon the bear was blind and swinging wildly. Gorstack didn't know how many punches it would take to render a bear unconscious, but it was fun trying to keep count. He felt exposed with his baby-making apparatus swinging around. He hoped nobody saw him. The bear was losing. They both knew that, but it had one last trick up its sleeve. One of the most frightening things a bear can do is to stand on its hind legs and tower over its opponent, and roar the roar with a fury equal to the burning sun. Gorstak had seen this already, and while definitely impressive, it exposed its own baby-making apparatus. Gorstak has never longed to have any male genitalia near his head, but when it comes to Mortal Kombat, sometimes there is no choice. As soon as the bear stood, Gorstak lunged with the might of a mastodon directly into the bear's entire groin. That spared the bear's fate. Spelled the bear's fate. Or speared. He kind of speared it. What the hell am I doing? It just had nothing left after that. Bears were excellent at providing meat and fur. Gorstak had no idea how to skin or how to cook, but using his teeth to skin something, especially a bear, could take days. 3 weeks later, after wandering around aimlessly, he found the southern edge of the Angok Mountains. He had been lucky enough to find empty caves or alcoves that lacked rude animals. When he finally made it down the mountain, he was treated with the beauty and lushness of a forest. The trees tall, the flowers blooming. Oh boy, the multitudes of fragrant aromas wafted into his nose, filling him with life and tranquility. Now he understood why the elves had made their homes in the forests. He almost had a hint of respect for the elves. But remembered the story of old about why the two races would not get along. It was said that Sylvasalone the elf and Mr. Katang the dwarf had met by happenstance one morning while walking where Gorstak had been just a few days prior. They knew nothing of each other's race, so they exchanged addresses and had meetings every month. They learned enough of their respective languages to communicate quite well. They became good friends, opening trade with each other. Although both trades were completely worthless, it was more about company than anything. The elf weapons were mostly wood inlaid with silver and became wonderful training implements for up-and-coming berserker dwarves. However, they could not use them on the battlefield. The dwarf weapons were iron and mostly ugly and too heavy for the elves to wield. However, the elves had a respect for the passion that was put into the craftsmanship. I won't even get into the alcohol. Anyways, to make a long story short, Selv and Katang were at the base of Mount... This is the dumbest name. They were at the base of Mount Cloud Mountain, looking at and appreciating its magnificence. "This be the tallest mountain in the range," Katang said proudly. "I literally live at the top of the world." "Impressive," Selv replied, with a sour tongue, as if he had been sucking iron dust. Weeks later, Selv gathered all the furs he could carry to combat the cold and climbed to the top and planted a seed. Normally, a tree would not grow this high. What? Normally, a tree would not grow in this high altitude, but this was a magic seed. And although magic will cease to exist after a certain altitude, this seed was pre-enchanted to grow no matter what. 40 years later, Katang was walking proudly atop his cloud mountain when he happened upon an elf lounging peacefully, if you could call shivering under 100 pounds of furs peaceful. "What the hell?" I am higher than you, dwarf," Selv replied with shivering uppity. For centuries, many wars were fought and lives ended. After the 8th century, the reason of the war was forgotten and an uneasy truce was made. They simply agreed to stay out of each other's paths from now on. Gorstak had never met an elf, and hoped he never would. "Fuck you and all your skinny kind!" he yelled into the forest. "I'll cut down every goddamn tree I see if you so much as look at me." All foresty noises, birds chirping, squirrels chittering, insects skittering alike, had ceased. It was complete silence for the next hour. The only living thing that Gorstack saw was a chipmunk that had a hurt and defeated expression on its face. It was as if all life had parted for Gorstack's path. When he got tired, he found a hole on the side of the hill that he could crawl into for some sleep. His bear meat had run out a week ago, and he was weak. He had eaten some dirt since it contained minerals. Oh, that was a vodka. Ah, that hurt. His bear meat had His bear meat had run out a week ago, and he was weak. He had eaten some dirt since it contained minerals, but nothing gave him the energy to carry on. He may just die in this hole, and nobody would ever know. When he got to his body halfway in, he smelled it. There was an animal in here. If he could take a bear, what was there to be afraid of in here? He heard some shuffling coming his way. He backed out to let some light in, and then he saw it. "Oh, I heard about you badgers, enough to respect you, so I'll just find another hole. Sorry." The badger did not seem to be listening. It lunged at the dwarf with intent to kill. Gorstack held it back as much as he could while he backed the rest of the way out of the hole. He had problems getting to his feet because a dense badger was on his chest, gnawing through the furs to get to Gorstack's sternum. When the teeth reached the bone, Gorstack howled like a wolf, something he had never done before, or ever expected to do. The real pain happened when the badger's head shook side to side, like a dog with a small throw pillow, or a kitten. "I just don't even know how to react to that kind of pain," he yelled, hoping for mercy from the little bastard. The pain was intense enough to make him jump to his feet, even with the badger locked onto his sternum. He made a run for the nearest tree and squashed the badger. It didn't really seem to care. Gorstack could feel his sternum splintering, so he would have to end this soon. The closest tree was obviously too close. So what about that one way down there at the bottom of the hill? If he had his jaws locked on somebody, and that somebody ran as fast as he could 200 yards downhill into a tree, yeah, Gorstack would feel it. He wrapped the badger in a tight bear hug so he could not escape. "Come on, buddy, we're going for a ride." The badger could feel a breeze through its fur and knew something was happening. It looked up at the dwarf, which was staring at something intently. The badger could see out of the corner of its eye a large tree approaching. It knew what this dwarf was about to do, and it had to escape. It tried to release, but its lower teeth were stuck in the bone. Gorstack, oh my God, I'm going to kill that bird. Gorstack looked down and could see what looked like worry on the badger's face. At 50 yards away, he covered the badger's eyes with one hand and his own with the other, knowing that this was going to suck for all parties involved. Messaurus Everleaf was born 110 years ago on a cold morning after a nightly rain shower. It was welcomed by its older siblings into the world. It wished they would have said how cute it was, or at least kept it warm, but over the years it noticed that its siblings neither spoke nor moved, unless they were all dancing at the same time. When it was very young, Messaurus Everleaf had trouble staying erect when its siblings danced. It was as if they were conjuring an unseen force to knock it over while they towered above it, mockingly dancing in place. Sometimes it could hear whistling or even howling, which scared it even more, and still, all the while, its siblings would dance. Then finally, one day, After a few torturous and depressing years, Messaris Everleaf did not bow. Wait. Oh, that hurts so bad. Did not bow over when the force came. It danced. This was the happiest day in its life. Now it could join its siblings and dance. Life over the next many decades was much better. It felt sorry for its younger siblings, but dancing felt so good. Messaris Everleaf was now the tallest tree in its family. It stood strong and wide and knew that it may someday provide shelter for the wandering two-legs. It noticed a two-leg running down a hill toward it. Messaris had seen many two-legs in its ears, but this one was a little different. It seemed to have a badger for a beard. There was nothing it could do to get out of the way. If a two-legged thing with a badger runs into a tree in the forest, does the tree feel it? The answer is yes, and it hurts. The badger had never known pain like this. The tree had never known pain like this. The dwarf had never known pain like this. The dwarf and the badger lay against Messaris Everleaf for hours. If Messaris had been born an oak instead of pine, it could have thought, "Ha ha! Your futile attempts to smash me are wasted on yourselves, for I am the mighty oak." But, alas, pine is just pine, and though highly respected in the community for its effortless breeding, producing mass production for housing and furniture, but the mighty oak was the gold of the trees, revered and worshipped, and carved intricately. Messaris hoped that the oak could feel every carving and graving and whittling that happened to them. Bastard oak! Gorstack woke up at night. He rolled over and saw that the badger was crawling back up the hill on its two front legs, the back legs both hanging limp and impotent. He picked up a fist-sized rock and threw it at the badger. He missed by a yard. "Dick!" he yelled, but the badger kept going. He stood up, and billions of living dwarf cells screamed in pain. From the bottom of his feet to the top of his head, he was really not in the mood to I'm so lost. From the bottom of his feet to the top of his head was really not in the mood to cooperate. He fell back to his knees and dry heaved. A spattering of blood expelled onto the tree in front of him. He was bleeding internally, and he still had a long way to travel to wherever he was going. He had a destination he could estimate. If he had a destination, he could estimate better. Only one way to settle this. 4,000 miles that away. After a short nap. And hopefully maybe the bleeding will stop. And maybe some lunch.